Over to you, Councillor Debenham.
Thank you very much. Right. Welcome to this virtual Cabinet panel on the environment meeting that is being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating via audio, video and online. There is also the opportunity for the public and press to listen to and view proceedings. We also have contributors from various organisations with us here to provide feedback. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to take a roll call to confirm that the required members, officers and participants can be heard.
Thank you. When your name is called, please indicate your attendance to confirm the required members, officers and registered speakers are present and can hear and be heard. So starting with Councillor Amy Allen.
Present.
Councillor Mick Debenham.
I'm here.
Councillor Dominic Griffiths. Councillor Bryony May.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Lisa Nash. Councillor Claire Strong.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here.
Hi.
Councillor Tina Bartboss.
Present.
Thank you. And we have the following officers: Georgina Chapman.
Present.
Ellie Hollingsworth.
Yep.
Debbie Coates.
Yes, hello.
Omar Etz.
Yeah, present, hello.
And I should have the following public. I should have Roger Lovegrove.
Hi, can you hear me? I can hear
Yes.
you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Delinda.
I'm here, yes.
Thank you. Ian Brown.
I'm here.
And Beryl Brown.
Hello, I'm here.
Lovely. Diane Ketcher. I know we've had a little bit of problems with connecting you, Diane. Can you just put your camera on your microphone and we can hear? That's the camera on, lovely. And
Right. Okay, yes, I'm here. Sorry, yes, I'm
that's fine, don't worry.
clicking the wrong.
And lastly, I've got Maggie Killenbeck.
Present.
Lovely. Is there anyone else that I haven't called out? Okay, I'll hand back over to the chair, please.
Thanks, Chanel. Right. Item 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Joe Graziano. Are there any further apologies? No? Right, good. Item 2, minutes of previous meeting. I propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meeting of the panel held on the 17th of July 2024. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we take that on the nod? Yeah, is that okay? Thank you very much. Now, number 3. Oh, excuse me, I've lost my parts again. This is very embarrassing. Right, Chair's announcements, sorry. In accordance with Council policy, this meeting is recorded. The recordings will be available on both the Council's YouTube page as well as the Council's ModGov site. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under Chairman's announcements on the agenda. Members are reminded that the Council has declared both a climate emergency and an ecological emergency. These are serious decisions and mean that, as these are emergencies, all of us, officers and members, have that in mind as we carry out our various roles and tasks for the benefit of our district. More details are included on the agenda front sheet. Notification of any other business. There has been no other business notified. Item 5, public participation. I believe there is no public participation today. So item 6. Oh, excuse me. Item 6. Work programme and new proposed action tracker template for 2024-25. Georgina Chapman and Ellie Hollingsworth to present.
Thank you. So we'll go through the information note. I'll go through my part of the information note and then Ellie will go through her part of the information note. So yeah, just to confirm that the kind of main thrust of tonight's meeting is about the Sustainability Supplementary Planning Document, or SPD, which was approved by Cabinet last month that came to the panel when it was in draft form for the panel to comment on. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity, now it's been approved, to bring that back to the panel, to talk about the content of it, the implications of having it, and how it's developed since it last came to the panel. So that will be the main thrust of the discussion tonight. The new proposed action tracker template, that was because we previously discussed at the panel about how, with the kind of previous tracker and the actions that were on it, a lot of them didn't have kind of clear completion points. Some of them were ongoing actions. Some of them weren't as specific as they could have been. So that was why some of the actions kind of stayed on the tracker for a very long time, because it was very hard to mark them as finished. So we've created a tracker template, which is kind of based on some of the other action plan templates that we use as part of the Hertfordshire Climate Change and Sustainability Partnership work. And essentially the new template should help us to record smart action, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So making sure that we're putting actions on there that we can actually do, and that we know who's doing them and when they're doing them by. So the suggestion is, at the panel meetings, members of the panel, members of the public can suggest action ideas for the tracker, and then after each panel meeting we'll have a wash-up meeting with the chairs, the policy team, to kind of formulate those ideas into actions that are realistic and timely, and have a specific individual who's going to do them, record them on the tracker, and then the tracker will be brought back to the panel each meeting. I thought it might also be useful to remind everyone that this panel can make recommendations to Cabinet, so that might be something to consider as well when we're looking at the actions that we're putting on the tracker. So I'll circle back to this tracker at the end of this meeting so that we can see if anyone had any action ideas that came out of the meeting, that we can kind of look at putting on the tracker. But I don't know if anyone has any comments for now on the template. Just let me know if you do, or we can talk about that later when we circle back to it. In terms of updates, so I'll update on the local nature recovery strategy. So those are the statutory spatial strategies which will agree priorities for nature recovery. So in Hertfordshire, that's being led by Hertfordshire County Council in partnership with district councils and borough councils, and other partners like the Wildlife Trust, for instance, and a wide range of stakeholders. There were a number of engagement events run over the summer that we promoted to residents, and some people who attend the panel also attended those events, which was nice. And NHC officers helped to facilitate one of those events that was in Hitchin. Phase 2 of the engagement, that was phase 1. So phase 2 will be starting very soon and will run throughout the autumn. And then the draft should be ready by March 2025, and the kind of last be at the end of this year, around December time. So the bits that are coming up in the autumn will be online sessions to engage wider stakeholder groups, to identify priorities and projects in Hertfordshire. Those to you guys and to wider stakeholders when we have more details on that. The next thing is about the public sector decarbonisation scheme. So where we are with that, to give completing the project for us, have completed the stage 2 design surveys. They've commenced the stage 3 design work. Those will be complete at the end of October. Almost all the surveys are complete, so that's things like ground surveys, asbestos surveys, structural surveys. Those are almost all complete. And we've also sent the planning pack over to the planning consultant for this project, and that is for them to review ahead of us applying to the Heritage Foundation. Can you all still hear me?
You went So you got up to the pack was going to be sent to the consultants to
so the-
review,
yes,
and that's
that
where
will
it
be-
stopped.
Yes, so the works at North Herts Leisure Centre they'll need to comply with the Heritage Foundation design guidelines. So we need to make an official application for that. So the pack is being sent to our planning consultant, who will review that ahead of making this application to the Heritage Foundation. I think the last thing I was going to update on was the UK SPF fund. So that is money that we got from central government as part of the Levelling Up Shared Prosperity Fund, and we created a North Herts Prosperity Fund from that money that we received for community groups to do levelling up activities. So there were 2 grant panels held last week on Thursday and Friday for the panel members to review the applicants that officers were recommending for funding from that fund. There were various applications that we had that were related to climate and environment. I can't share yet in this meeting who has been recommended for funding, who will be getting the funding, because the delegated decision hasn't been completed yet, but it will be very shortly, and we'll update the panel when we can on that, because I know a number of you were interested on that last time we met. So we'll update you on who's won funding from that as soon as we can. I think those are all my updates, so I will pass over to Ellie.
Thank you. So just a few updates from the Hertfordshire Climate Change and Sustainability Partnership. So firstly, the bulk Solar Together, which is the bulk buy solar PV scheme. So the second round of that has now closed. So installations for this round have finalised as well, and we've got some final updated figures on installations. So 104 households in North Herts have been completed, and 514 in Hertfordshire have also been installed. Next is the Hertfordshire Growth Board have launched their sustainability county mission. So sustainability is mentioned within the other missions as well, and the HCCSP, so the partnership, is referred to as sort of a key delivery agent of the Sustainable County mission. So they've got a specific remit around developing the local area energy plan for Hertfordshire, and a working group is going to be formed on this shortly. The retrofit guidance document has now been finished and is available on the HCCSP website. We can put a link into the chat after this to signpost people to that. Next up is a brief update on the Home Upgrade Grant Phase 2 scheme. So this scheme has just closed for applications as of the end of September. So this scheme was aiming to provide free home upgrades to those in sort of fuel poverty to increase the EPC rating of their homes. So that has now closed. And lastly, on climate engagement, our engagement hub for climate change and sustainability, the Climate Hive, now has over 380 subscribers. We're continuing to update residents and all of those people signed up for updates on sort of the latest environmental days, things like Unblocktober, which is this month, and a number of consultations, surveys, and local events. So yeah, just a reminder that residents can sign up for updates. And yeah, it's the North Herts Climate Hive. That is everything for the information note on the updates. I'll now move on to the Westminster update, which is at Appendix B. So I'll just go over sort of some of the key points from that. So an APSI representative presented at the latest HCCSP meeting and updated officers and members on some key updates from central government. So firstly, there's been sort of some key priorities, which are the points I'm going to cover now. So GB Energy, so Great British Energy, is sort of a focus on the objectives of production, storage, distribution and supply of clean energy. So it's sort of aiming for a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, improvement to energy efficiency, and ensuring the security of the supply of energy for the UK. So GB Energy involves an £8.3 billion investment and a further £600 million of funding for local authorities. Next up is the local power plan, which is one of GB Energy's 5 functions. So it's looking to provide sort of a partner funding support scheme for local and combined authorities for renewable energy projects, which will benefit and flow directly back into local communities. And further support will also be provided to local authorities in the form of commercial, technical and project planning assistance. Next is planning. So there's been a lift, or they're hoping to lift the ban on onshore wind in England, sort of making it easier for wind farms to be put in place. There's been hopes for reforms to the national planning policy framework, including a chapter on supporting green energy and the environment. There is approval of 3 new solar farms, and also an update on the planning and infrastructure bill, which will look to accelerate upgrades to the grid and streamline the planning process for larger infrastructure projects like solar farms and wind farms. Also in the sort of planning aspect is the housing target, which they're aiming to restore the target of 1.5 million homes over the course of the next Parliament. Next is the Warmer Homes Plan, which is sort of similar to HUG 2 that we've seen already. So it's a big investment, so 6.6 billion of government investment to reduce fuel poverty by upgrading around 5 million homes and cutting bills for families. Next, we have the biodiversity update, which is they're aiming for 3 new national forests in England and prioritising planting millions of trees, woodland creation and expansion of nature-rich habitats like wetlands and peat bogs. And lastly, which is sort of a main sort of skills update, is the establishment of Skills England, which aims to be a new partnership with employers via the Skills England bill to reform the apprenticeship levy. So yeah, all of those updates can be found at Appendix B if you want a bit more detail. And also there's the contact details of the APSI representative as well. And I will hand back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ellie and Georgina. Very lot there. There's a lot for people to think about. Any questions? Anybody?
If I may share, purely that if that was a lot of information to take in, which I know it can be, you can get back to us and email the environmental panel with any questions that you might think of after the meeting or later on in the week, of course, and any comments, queries, and otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Sorry, my eyesight is awful. Dear Linda, I think that says. I hope that's right.
Yes, it is right. Thanks.
Oh, good.
So good evening, everybody. Just a few comments. I can admit that I was one of the people that took up the offer of putting solar panels on my house. I already had them on one side of the house, and I had the opportunity to do the other side. But I wonder, I found myself in an, and this is just a feedback for the people running the scheme, to how many people are actually, that have taken up that offer found themselves in the same position that I did. When both my other 2 sons had solar panels put on their house, the one in South Africa and the other one in the UK, if there is a power shortage, they are able to continue running the house on the electricity from the batteries that is stored in the batteries. I find myself I only actually found out myself after the system was installed in my house using the scheme provided by the council, by your scheme that was arranged, that if there is a power cut, even though I may have 3 batteries, large size batteries in my garage full of electricity, I will not be able to run the house. And that was because the inverter that was organized by the council as part of that scheme to make it cheap, or as cheap as possible, does not allow me to run the freezers and the computers and possibly the lights or whatever I wish to run out of the charge in my battery, because it's a cheap inverter, and that it hadn't been spec'd that I should into the scheme that I should or the customer that has paid all that money that would not be able to use the power because it's not connected to the grid. And unless you've got a different type of inverter, there has to be power in the grid and for the system to be live to the grid before I can use the power in the batteries. So I think that's foolish, because if the whole point of having batteries is, yes, I can store cheap electricity and I can use it during the day. But if there was a power shortage because maybe the power station is flooded or something happened, I could have batteries full of charge and yet not be allowed to use them, because the system is designed that way. And I think that's unfortunate. And I hope that if ever you run another such scheme, that no such silly and pointless inverters are spec'd into the scheme, because it actually makes a mockery of the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Is there a way, because there will be more rounds of this, is there a way we can talk to
we can certainly ask iChooser. So we didn't spec the inverter. iChooser, who run Solar Together in partnership with local authorities, did all of that element. But no, that's interesting feedback, because we haven't heard that. We haven't heard that before, and I don't think it was mentioned in the closing report for the scheme. So that's useful feedback, and we can definitely feed it in, because we are discussing that.
So I suspect people will only find out if and whenever power fails, then they can't run because their inverter doesn't allow. And which I think is just foolish. It's actually for me to be able to do what I thought my sons can do, and I thought I was buying, because it never occurred to me that there would be such a thing as a system that wouldn't allow me to do that. I would have to ditch the inverter that I paid, I have many hundreds, £1,000 for, and buy a more expensive one instead.
Yeah, no, we can feed that in, because we are actually discussing at the Hertfordshire Climate Change and Sustainability Partnership, who we kind of did this. All the local authorities in Hertfordshire did this scheme at the same time through iChooser. We're discussing the kind of closing report at the moment. So I think Councillor Debenham is actually going to a meeting tomorrow where they're going to discuss the closing report. So if you want, you can raise it there, and if not, we can raise it at the officer group as feedback for next time that the scheme runs.
That's great. So if I could just add, the last person who spoke mentioned about 3 solar farms possibly being approved in the area or in Hertfordshire. And so I'm just wondering, are these solar farms going to become agrivoltaic solar farms? In other words, where they're going to be expected to keep running as farms, while at the same time being able to harvest the sun. So the dual harvest farms, because that would be the ideal. And there are plenty of studies around the world. Yes, they have initial different investment costs, but it means that the country can still carry on producing agricultural produce to sustain feeding the population and things like that. So if you want to know or find out more about agrivoltaics, there's plenty of information out there. And in fact, there are a couple of universities in the UK that are running agrivoltaic studies outside of the UK, because I find it hard to everybody wants to put solar panels close to the ground for the cheapness, rather than long-term intelligent investment, as it were. And when these solar farms, agrivoltaic solar farms, if built properly, they actually can have dual sides solar panels that are double-sided. They actually produce electricity from the sun from both sides.
Mhm.
And if they are used vertically or tilting or whatever at high enough above the crops, you can keep producing. In fact, it's to a greater benefit in terms of production, and still be able to harvest the sun. So I would very much like the council to consider that if you're going to approve anything, is on the condition that they become agrivoltaic farms. So they carry on producing whatever they've been producing, as well as delivering solar energy.
Yeah, we can. I think just to clarify on that point, I think Ellie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when Ellie mentioned about the 3 solar farms being approved, I think that's a national. I think that was an example of some of the things that the national government have done nationally since they've been in power, rather than in North Hearts. I don't think those 3 that Ellie referenced are in North Hearts. But we're reviewing our climate strategy soon, so that's something that we can take away to look at. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks very much. Roger did have his hand up, and that's gone down. All right, and he's now asked a question actually on the chat. Has anybody got an answer there? Are you?
I could explain the problem if that would help.
Yes, please, Roger.
Right. When you generate electricity and the mains goes off, the mains going off because of the fault somewhere, and there are people working on the line. And if you're generating electricity and you don't positively disconnect yourself from the line, you could be pumping mains voltage back into the grid where there are workers actually on the line. So there's a simple rule which says on common systems, if there's no mains power, the system mustn't be allowed to operate. Now, you can get a black box that will solve that problem, but it's another box, it's another expense, and no one that I know of actually has such a box, but they must exist because people that are off-grid suffer the problem far more than we do. Also, from the emergency planning viewpoint, I know we're not talking about emergency planning, but in the case of power going off for long term in an emergency, it's highly desirable that people can use their batteries and their solar panels to generate their own electricity and use it. So it's somewhere that we ought to be going towards, but there's no system at the moment. The salesman won't try and sell you a box that enable you to do it. Does that help?
Roger, I need to come back to you. I've got one of my sons lives in Cape Town, and they have in South Africa, they've got load shedding. And the very reason why his system is built in the way it is because so that they can use electricity generated from the home in the batteries that they can run while the country shuts off electricity to all of the homes from time to time.
Technologically, it's not difficult. It's just that in Britain, because we've got a very reliable electricity system, no one's actually gone down that road and have paid to do it. But if you want to pay more money, you can get a system that will do it for you.
So I don't mind paying more money. My point was that I was not told that I was being sold something to do that, and I didn't find out that I bought the right system because of whatever was in the contract with the county, with that arrangement that the council put together. And that is my point: is that I was not told that there was a choice and that I could pay a bit more to get what I wanted.
Okay, well, so we've taken that on board, and so we've got the meetings coming up for when the next round comes on. So it's good feedback. Thank you for that, and yeah, it's certainly something to consider going forward. Councillor Amy Allen. Amy?
There we go. I am. I'm going to do a whip round, Mick, and get you some new glasses. I just want to
stop getting them for free now.
Yeah. One that this is a chaired panel, and I appreciate that everyone is feeling, sort of very passionate about a lot of these items and such. But can we please make sure that we keep the conversations through the chair and wait to be called on by the chair, because then that means that everybody else in the room has the opportunity to speak on these topics. We've got more bits to go through, and we do have other members of the public here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Right, does anybody else have anything else to say about presentations? No? Well, thank you very much. That was excellent, most informative. Next up, we have, for your delight, Sustainability Supplement Planning Document presentation. We've got Omar Ezzat and Debbie Coates to present. Over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Omar has prepared a presentation for you. So it's just to update you from where we were previously when we presented to you. The document's been adopted by Cabinet and is in use with the council. And we just want to sort of set out how we've got to that point. So I'll let Omar go through this and then we'll take any questions afterwards.
Thank you, Debbie. Can you all see the presentation on the screen?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'll just do a very brief recap and then explain basically the changes since our last meeting. So the Sustainability SPD provides more detailed sustainability advice and guidance and links to policies in the local plan, specifically the Sustainable Development Policy SP1. It cannot introduce new policies, but it is a material consideration when making decisions. And it is not supposed to add any unnecessary financial burdens on development, but it aims to encourage developers to exceed the minimum standards. So what we've done since is to make the document more concise, and we've done that by arranging it into 8 broad sustainability themes, including passive design and fabric performance, low carbon energy, minimizing carbon footprint, healthy placemaking, promoting biodiversity, sustainable travel, conserving water, and sustainable drainage. And there's also an additional section on historic buildings retrofitting. So the document had its public consultations early this year, between January and February, for 6 weeks. We received a substantial number of representations, 89 I think they were, from 17 individuals and organizations, including members of the public, the Environment Agency, Herts County Council, various developers and consultants. Generally, they were supportive of the SPD and its objectives. Some raised concerns about potential cost implications, and some asked for further clarifications on the requirements and particularly on the benchmarks and the 3, the silver, the bronze, silver, gold standards. And some suggested we should widen the standards to include alternatives to passive house and LETI. So following the consultation, we've sought to remove any repetition from the document, and as I explained, we divided it into 8 broad themes, mainly as well as to make it more concise. It also helps to make it align better with the draft design codes which we are preparing for the district. The implementation methods are clarified. Minor applications are now excluded, for example, such as householder extensions. And we've added the checklists to each theme, whereas previously they were all grouped together at the end as an appendix. We've also added a glossary and a list of acronyms, and we clarified the different sustainability benchmarks, specifically that bronze represents the current baseline and is representative of building regs and existing policy. Finally, we've had the standards reviewed by sustainability consultants, XCO2, who are well known in this field and have also provided advice to Herts County Council previously, basically to sense check the document and the benchmarks. we've also added some minor changes in guidance and the NPPF since the original was drafted. As I mentioned, the document basically sets out 3 sustainability standards, bronze being the basic policy requirement and current building regs requirements, and then gold represents the highest best practice as it exists at the moment, and then silver is sort of between the two. So each theme, as I mentioned, includes its own sustainability checklist. So here I'm just showing one of the checklist 7, which is the conservation of water. So for example, in our policy, we require 110 liters per person per day in terms of water consumption, which represents bronze level. But we've gone for higher standards for silver, less than 95 liters per day per person per day, and less than 75 for the gold standard. Similarly, we've also included standards for non-residential development, which follow the BREEAM standards. In terms of implementation and incentives, so developers will be expected to champion on a number of sustainability themes rather than going for sort of gold on all the themes. This will be largely influenced by the site conditions, site context in terms of location, site constraints, scale and type of development. And schemes achieving higher sustainability levels will be favorably considered in decision making. And we also hope to publicize exemplar schemes on the council's website. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Omar. I think this is a really excellent document. I think it's really good that we're striving to go above the legal minimum. I think it's excellent. Has anybody got any questions or points they'd like to raise? Queries? No? Come on. Roger. You're on mute, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Can I just say I reread this document and I'm absolutely amazed by it. It's really quite fantastic. Somebody's put a hell of a lot of work into updating and creating this document, and I just love the silver, bronze, and gold system. I mean, whether anybody will actually do any gold or silver is another matter, but you know, it's a really impressive document. Well done.
Thank you. Just to let you know, we've already had some interest on existing projects. So some of the developers are looking to try to achieve at least silver or gold on some of the themes in their proposals. So it's looking promising at the moment.
Brilliant. Dear Linda.
So I'm just wondering if with this bronze, silver and gold, is any chance that the new Churchgate project in Hitchin could be required to achieve gold as a, flagship project of the council? Can we go for that?
Chair, can I come back on that one, please? We will certainly be talking to our enterprise team to see what they can achieve. Obviously, with all developers, we need to take into account, or they will need to take into account, any viability. But it is certainly something that we would strive to set an example to other developers that if we can achieve it, we would expect them to achieve it. So yes, it will be something we will be discussing with them.
Yeah, that would be good. Any more for any more? No? Well, thank you, Omar. As I say, it's a brilliant document, and thank you for talking it through with us.
Thank you.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is concludes this meeting.
Can we circle back very quickly? We've obviously got a few ideas for actions from the meeting, but is there anything that anybody else wanted to raise as an action idea for the tracker before we finish?
Yeah. Roger?
Yeah, sorry. I thought we were going to go into some detail in the SPD. I mean, if we think about LG1 as being one of the largest new estates going up in North Hertfordshire, what's to stop the Heritage Foundation and the developers just saying, well, we're just going to achieve the bronze standard? What incentive is there? Because it does cost more money. I mean, Letty estimated for a flat it would cost an extra 8k per property, and for a detached house about £14,000 extra to make it to a Letty standard. So any developer can argue it will cost more money. It will be building, they can always come up against, we always come up against that problem. Why spend more money when you don't have to? And yet these houses are for 100 years, and the energy they'll save by going to a gold standard will save a fortune over the 100 years, far more than the 14k that it will cost to put it right in the first place. So it would be nice to see the council doing something to legally force these developers to do something along these lines.
Yeah,
Mm.
it would.
Can I come back on that, please, Councillor?
Certainly you may.
So obviously with a supplementary planning document, we can't force anyone to do anything. It is purely an encouragement and pushing developers in that direction. Obviously, home buyers are more aware of sustainable buildings now and are expecting certain levels. Obviously, the detail of the SPD will be incorporated into any update of the local plan in the future, and will become a form of policy, and that will obviously follow whatever updates government give us in terms of legislation and requirements on a national level. So at the moment, I think we need to be aware that from a buyer's market point of view, the buyers will expect more of them. But at the moment, it is a case of balancing everything together. So it's not going to solve all our problems immediately, but it is certainly a step in the right direction, I think.
Cheers, thank you. Good evening, Claire Strong. Over to you.
Sorry, can I just clarify from the officer there? Because I thought that having revised the SP1 document and that it was now adopted by the council.
Sorry, the SPD, the supplementary planning document, is adopted by the council, yes. But it supports the local plan policy SP1.
Yes. Yes, so because what you said, it would be incorporated into the new local plan. My understanding was that we'd now revised that document, and as we were going right and revising any other documents as part of our planning process, so that now any new applications that come to committee will need to be assessed against SP1.
No, SP1, the policy itself remains as it is in the local plan. The supplementary planning document merely supports it and directs developers as to what the council expects of them.
So the supplementary document then will be part of the planning and control and planning applications. Yeah, okay. So
material consideration in it, yes.
Yeah, so that when we then do the revision, the supplementary that will then become part of the main local plan.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, because my understanding was being that those revisions were now part of the planning process. So I'm sorry if I'm labouring it a bit, but I just didn't want there to be people to go away and not think that this was actually what we were using as part of our planning process.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that, Claire?
Sorry, I didn't catch. You asked me a question. I didn't catch it.
No, I was just asking whether you're happy with that answer, with that response.
Yeah. No, that's what I had understood. And like any other bits that get done between now and when we get the final revision of the local plan.
Okay, thank you.
But I will say I do think that the revision was a good one, and I think it's taking us in the right direction.
Thank you. I agree. Are we thinking of when these new build sites around, you get all these boards up having things like, this is a gold star development, and as opposed to show off that who are the developers who are getting our golds, and as opposed to silvers and bronze, or how will the public know which developers are meeting higher standards?
So it will obviously come through any committee report and recommendation made by the officers to the Planning Control Committee. But yes, we are looking to set up something on the website, and obviously if we use them as exemplar developments, the developer in their own publicity of the site can use that sort of award, so to speak.
Okay, good. Oh, Roger again.
Yeah, just one point on that. If a developer builds only bronze standard houses, then he shouldn't be allowed to say this is an eco house or whatever. There's lots of publicity around all these eco measures, but there ought to be some rule or other that says if you're going to build a minimum standard, it is not eco. And somehow or other, the PR side of that needs to be managed such that they're not allowed to boast when they've got nothing to boast about.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. Does anybody else have anything else? No?
Oh, sorry. I do have one more if you...
Certainly.
Water butts. You recommend water butts in the SPD. Water butts aren't really a sustainable feature in a domestic property. Water butts have a lot of plastic in them. They cost 50 to 100 quid. They have a payback time. A typical water butt contains about 30p's worth of water. And if you fill it and empty it 3 times a year, you're saving about 90p. And that's nowhere near going to pay for itself. People do it because we're encouraged to save water, but there isn't a shortage of water in North Hertfordshire. What there is the shortage of capture and storage. We get 22 inches of water here in Letchworth. That's plenty of water, but Affinity Water won't expend the capital expenditure to develop more capture and storage. And so they're always encouraging us to save water. The other point, before the ladies start screaming at me about water butts, is that plants actually prefer tap water. The Which magazine did a survey, did some experiments with some plants, a range of plants with tap water and rainwater, and they found that most plants actually prefer tap water. And just one final point on that: if we're going to save money, if every time you save water, you're actually saving money for Affinity Water shareholders in France, and there's a balance there. And the simple solution would be just to ban water butts, but I mean that would not on the cards. But I don't believe you should be recommending the use of water butts.
Does anybody have a comment on that? Any of our officers? No? All right, we'll leave it hanging for now. Dear Linda, again.
Sorry.
Quite all right. Carry on.
I don't know, have anything against water butts. I've got a few of them, especially if they're made from recycling plastic. It's one way of trapping plastic in a useful way. What I meant was somebody asked about some way of recognizing gold standard and silver standard projects or construction projects or whatever. And I can't, for the moment, think of the detail, but I'm aware that the parish that I go to, the Our Lady Immaculate in St Andrew, has got a plaque on when the new one was built, and it was something like a Queen's Award or something for architecture or something like that. It's like a round disc on that it was given when it was built, and I'm wondering if that is something that you could set up, something like that would actually be something that is not just on the website, but visible to the public. And as people walk past and people buy flats or buildings or whatever, or commercial buildings or whatever, that would be something to be proud of, and also would rub in the message. If that's, you know, because they would be looking out for awards like that in other buildings.
Yeah, I agree. There's no point us installing these gold standards if nobody knows that it's happening. So yeah, I think something we could look into, definitely. Right, last chance, everyone. Any more takers for anything at all? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, especially for our contributors. The next meeting is 22nd of January, if you can wait that long. Thanks for attending again, and hopefully see you all in January. Good night.
Good night.
Night, thank you.
Night, thank you.
All right.
Right.